Bow wow.
Welcome to DogStar.
Each week we sit down with a star of hip-hop and R&B.
Oh, yeah.
And this week we're sitting down with Chaz Kangas. How you feeling?
Wonderful to be here. I've always wanted to be on a podcast where we talk about Keanu Reeves' band.
Yeah?
And this being the DogStar podcast, I figured that that's what this was.
He got... No, I'm just kidding. He got us, very, very observant.
Am I the first to make that reference?
Probably.
Really?
Probably.
Yeah. There's a legend in Minnesota radio whose name was the Chucker. And one time this is in the 90s, he would do radio interviews where he would deliberately confuse a celebrity for a wrong celebrity and then just keep going with it, even when they try to tell him differently. So Keanu Reeves is talking about with his band DogStar for this interview, and he's talking as if he's talking to Christopher Reeves.
Oh, that's great.
It's an amazing bit.
Keeps asking him Christopher Reeves questions.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I highly recommend checking it out. Yeah, the Chucker's a legend.
The Chucker.
Well, speaking of legends, we can't believe that we got you.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking time out of the schedule to sit down with chat with us, with fans.
Hey, thanks. Nowhere I'd rather be right now.
Oh, that means so much.
That means a lot.
Let's dive on in.
Let's dive on in. Exactly. We want to go all the way back to the beginning. So
Hop in the DeLorean.
Okay. Yep.
Little baby Chaz, or maybe not baby, but people are playing music around you before you're old enough to pick the music. Who in your life would have been in charge of stuff like that?
Both my parents, and I'm just one of those kids who perpetually grew up with media, just always around and always happening. So I'm very lucky. My mom was take me to musicals, take me to movies a lot as a kid, so I got to really enjoy the arts. And
was she an artist as well?
No, she was just a huge fan to the point where you could almost say benefactor, enthusiast about everything. She had her record collection, and she had just a real love of going to the theater and taking it in, and radio always on, music always on, sing-alongs always happening. So yeah, my mom both tying in with the love of music as well as the zeal to pursue seeing it and enjoying it, and the importance of it is something that was really passed on and to me at an early age. One of those things where it's just life is music and great songs and things, and it's just kind of just part of that nature of how I've always seen the world. And then my dad was a musician. My dad played guitar. My parents actually met at a Minneapolis bar that is no longer around because it burned down, called The Front Page. And they met while he was playing a gig as a guitar. And they met afterwards.
Works every time.
Yep.
The old guitar.
Yeah. and this was the 70s, so it wasn't even... was one of those situations where, now I think we've been at that college dorm party where that one guy who doesn't know how to talk to girls pulls out his guitar and starts playing Santeria. So it was not a situation like that. So, and everyone knows that guy, regardless what campus you're on. So
no, that's so important, like you were saying, to have to be surrounded with people who appreciate the art, but also, bring you to it versus just appreciate it from a distance.
Yep.
Can you remember some of the favorite music either of your parents were showing you before you were old enough, or maybe certain albums that you were like, I can't believe they're playing this again?
Well, I think I was actually born the week that Paul Smith's Graceland album came out, and my dad got that album this week because that came out on, I believe, August 10th, and I was born August 14th.
Okay.
So years, I just didn't kind of realize years later how close those release dates and things were until it was the anniversary release of it. I was covering it for a site I was writing for called Spectrum Culture. And then when I looked it up, because I was like, how do I know so much of this album? Because I knew the singles, and I was like, okay, I thought I was just familiar with it because there was a huge hit for Paul Simon, but I'm like, why is so much of this deeply imprinted in me? Why is it things where it's I don't know the song by name, I don't think I've heard the song before, but I suddenly know the entirety of the song.
Yeah. Right. I know. I could sing you the guitar solo. Oddly, right?
Yeah. So, and then finding out later, I asked my dad about it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember getting that week." And so,
wow.
Your brain grew to the rhythm of that album. Yeah, that's nuts.
And were you musically active, perhaps in church and school from an early age?
Even prior to that, actually. So I'm very much into VHS preservation, video preservation, and so I have a lot of home movies. When my mom first got me a VHS to DVD converter.
Cool.
This is 2011. She got it for me. So I was going through it, and there's some stuff where I knew was on tape, stuff from birthday parties, different school events and things like that. What I was really surprised to find that I had no idea existed is video of me at 4 or 5, so around 1991, 92, freestyling, and.
Wow.
it's just because the age that I am was when hip hop was still a counterculture, but it started to also really be in commercials and be in like the bumpers for Disney Afternoon, and there's just a tease of hip hop for kids. It was about to go full on like when Nickelodeon really embraced it a few years later, but it was still just like this. Oh, this is a thing. This is no question. This is like
fad,
a cool
right.
thing. This is this thing that just exists, and there's something of it that speaks to you. So I don't know why it was, or I'm like sitting on like one of those old like giant, not keyboard, but giant organs that would still, you'd hit a button and it would play like bass tracks for you. And so it's me just like sitting and I'm looking in a camera, and it's for a 4 or 5 year old, like it has its moments. But I there is one particular thing that stands out where I can see it in my eyes. The moment I realizes, I've never been a word guy. The moment I realize that I rhyme ants with pants, and like I see it in my eyes looking in this video thing where it's like something clicks where I'm just really proud of myself. And when I told a story to like the comedian of my Kaplan before, I've mentioned I'm probably not the first person to ever rhyme ants with pants.
Yeah.
But in that moment and having it just sort of come to me that I could like connect and create this kind of couplet together. So it's cool because when you're at that age and, you know, you're forming even your personality, your interests, and the things you can do and your habits, and seeing this little early on the joy of freestyling and the joy of language in my eyes at that point was a really cool thing to discover.
Were you an avid reader?
Yes.
Okay.
Very much so. The first author, like celebrity, like I really met was Tommy DePaula in 1989. And I know this because if you've been to the Dayton's Project in the Skyway downtown Minneapolis, they have, for their celebration of all the years of Dayton's, they have like one of the window displays from that has the exact date on it. So when I saw that and it went up, because I remember my mom bringing me to it, and it was so cool. He was signing copies of his then new book, and you know I loved Stregonona, and it was just so cool, like meeting the Tommy DePaula. And so yeah, big Tommy DePaula fan, big Eric Carle fan. Yeah, you know, children's books, man. Like when it's just, I think parents should read to kids more, and in general, and you can. It means so much. It opens like such a world. So, yeah. Speaking as a former Bank Street College Teacher of the Year, like I can tell people how to parent their kids, and this is how. Like read to it more. So
That's huge. So I assume you were, you know, doing great in English class.
Yes.
Reading, writing, all of that.
Yeah.
Was there any?
Not handwriting though.
Oh, okay.
I've always really struggled with my handwriting, and it's something where like I practice it. I work really hard. That was the first class where I was like, I remember in third grade when they teach you cursive, and I was like really, really like having a hard time because I was taking my time and I was following, and I didn't get why it wasn't coming together for me. And you know, at a certain point, you kind of realize, you know, you practice it. So I still do, like, especially if I'm putting something out or I know I'm going to be signing things a lot, I do like practice my signature. And it's why like when I sign my name, like I seldom, very rarely will do like a cursive Z, just because. And as a kid,
Don't even get me started on the cursive
I know.
Z.
I guess as a kid, I thought it looked like this tumor, like at the end of like a word. So I just started writing my name in cursive CHA, and then I'd try to make the Z look like a lightning bolt. And, or if anyone's watching in Canada, a Z looked like a lightning bolt. Yeah, you know, no, I just don't want to, you know, take the name of the Lord Zed in vain. So I would just put the Z with like, and then that wound up being just my signature. So I think it's like, you know, I like writing in cursive, like even like through college, even like when taking notes, like I prefer to do the handwriting thing. And I know I can read it, but it's also clear, like I have people who work in the medical profession in my family, so the quality of the handwriting is not the greatest, but that was like the challenging subject.
The
for me.
sticker.
And where did music enter? Was it through schooling? Like where could you first kind of explore like a musical instrument outside of the home?
It's funny because like, well, music has just kind of just always been around. I went to Montessori preschool.
Oh,
and
well,
so I
forgive
remember,
my previous question.
I got the opening solo in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer for the
Oh,
Christmas pageant that year.
okay.
Yeah, and I remember doing it and then being super proud after. And that's another one that thankfully is on tape as well. And so there's a lot of music there, you know, or just, you know, you learn, you know, Frere Jacques. I remember the day we learned about singing in rounds and row, row, row your boat. And it just blew my mind that this was a way to sing. So that was always cool. So I'm thankful I've always had that. And then just kind of always having music around. Like even when music wasn't particularly the forefront of my interest. Like I was really into like watching kids TV and stuff. Like the opening theme songs that always be one of my favorite parts, and I would like deliberately go out of my way to memorize every single part of those. And just and things like the Disney Channel as a kid would have like these breaks, these like little music videos in the middle, and where you'd see like like Little Richard performing Itsy Bitsy Spider, like these things that just they stand out to you. So it's just like, oh, okay, this is a thing to do. This is how music is to be presented.
Right.
Yeah.
This is how to indulge in it. So I joined choir when I was in third grade. Rest in peace, Mr. Winkles. And I played in school band. Like I played like just the snare drum in concert band in fourth grade.
Fourth grade.
I went on and then I continued to like play it in high school for 2 years. And then I was in choir for a year there in high school.
Sorry, played percussion, snare drum.
Yep. Yeah. So it was percussion like through grade school, and then like it became a drum set in high school.
Not necessarily like marimba or timpani.
I did play timpani. So I played timpani. I played conga. I played very little bells, like sort of did, but it was
maybe a cabasa here and there.
If one snuck its way in there, who's to say? So
was it still a Montessori school at this time in high school and middle school, or was
no? I went to Immaculate Conception School in grade school in Columbia Heights, and then I went to De La Salle High School. Like Crowfather, he's a fellow Islander.
Yeah.
But he was
Islanders are everywhere.
They are, especially in your front lawn, and but they're not. I almost made a political joke about a De La Salle alumni who's a candidate who just lost. So,
oh no!
And hold for editing. And we're back.
And we're back.
Yeah.
But that's huge. So yeah, you kind of had the taste of the stage. I mean, with that solo, obviously, that's got to feel pretty sweet.
Yeah, and you got not only got to know all the reindeer, you got to know them in order.
Yeah.
So it's a high thing, and most people it's like Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, and it's like I know of them.
Yeah.
But no, you got to really commit that you know them. So that sort of started that, and then I just really enjoyed it. And then
was there any songwriting going on in high school then? Or?
Did the freestyling continue even at parties or sleepovers?
Well, performance-wise, like in second grade, I performed "Friend Like Me" from Aladdin, which is something that people in that grade school will still ask
like
me
at
about.
a talent show or just randomly busking in the cafeteria?
At a talent show. My mom, I auditioned for the talent show just because like I had rented the Disney sing-along songs tape and memorized it. So I found out there was going to be a talent show that year. I'm like, hey, I know this song. I can sing. I'm Chaz. And I went up and did that. And it's something that's still randomly like I'll get like a social media comment and they'll be like, share the video of you as the genie. And it's like, okay, cool. So,
Were you in Blueface?
No, I was not.
Okay.
So, no, bust down Tatiana. But but rapping had just kind of been one of those things where I still and then at that age, like in grade school, when you turn on MTV in like the 90s, rappers were like that bridge from like reading comic books or watching cartoons into the real world. Because at that time when you're really formulating, because you feel like MTV is for adults, but then you see something like the Busta Rhymes Woo Ha Got You All in Check video, and I don't know if YouTube really does justice to what it was like. Because if you're seeing that on YouTube, it's like in the algorithm where you have the thing where you sort of know it's coming in a way. Right. When you just have the TV on and you have Busta Rhymes in your face doing what he does, or that, or like the Outkast, like Rosa Parks video, or just so many of these, the Missy Elliott Super Duper Fly video.
Larger than life.
Yeah, like these things that, how is this a real person, like doing these very colorful, very high level personality things, and it's like something out of a Spawn comic or an X-Men comic come to life, or a video game. And so from there, like I just, got really serious in junior high with 3 other friends rapping, and we formed a group
called
the Sledgehammer Posse.
The Sledgehammer Posse.
Because we were really into the Peter Gabriel albums. So at the time, even though that came out in '86 and this was 1999.
Hey.
But because it was one of those things, the top of the millennium things. And everyone's talking about how Sledgehammer was like the best music video, or the top 2 music video of the millennium.
Nice.
And
it's pretty cool.
It is. Like the argument is always, if you're talking 20th century music videos, are you Sledgehammer or are you Thriller? And honestly, I'm Sledgehammer. Like especially now,
right?
Because of course, John Landis. But so we started like doing that, and then at that point, like some of us were really into Wu-Tang, and the idea of like
sorry, this is in like 6th, 7th, 8th.
This
grade?
is 8th grade, like 7th into 8th grade. Like
these are very formative years.
So, yeah. So like I had like my dad's business laptop that he wasn't using, and he pulled up Microsoft Sound Recorder, a program that I wound up learning inside and out to like really edit and do things in music on, like and learning the different way to like mix and do things on tracks. all in these like wave files.
Right.
And so we wound up doing a thing where we did, because we wanted the idea like, we were gonna like end 8th grade by putting out an album like each week. So it was gonna be like my first album, then my buddy Matt's album, then my buddy Andrew's album, then like my second album.
Kick the summer off right.
The what?
Kick the end of the school year off right. Kick
Exactly.
the summer off right.
Yeah, that's how you graduate 8th grade. Like I was part of the May crowning court, and I was gonna ride that momentum.
The high schools are going to hear about this, and we will be.
They were gonna rescind my scholarship immediately. So we did that, and then we kind of realized, because at that point the CD burners weren't in computers yet. It was a whole external thing that I got for Christmas that year. So I was like, putting in like the Maxell CDR, and you have to like wait and record each track and things like that. So I just like kept like rapping and really enjoying rapping. But that was also, I was like really starting to very much so get into film at that point, mostly through like Trauma Films. Like I saw The Toxic Avenger, and I didn't realize you could mix horror and comedy like that. And that was like, I thought there was like genre rules.
Right.
So that wound up just getting me real like, I need to just see as much of these things as I can, possibly see. So then I started like making film as well. And high school came at DLSL. Somehow word got around that I was rapping and rapped early. So I wound up getting into freestyle battles. And, at that point, like I had braces like that would like, so it'd be hard to freestyle sometimes if you have like a early
Hindrance,
style braces.
right.
Yeah. But then you learn how to, like articulate and verbalize around
yeah.
it. And it wound up being, the freestyle wit of it. Like, and you get when people know it, especially at that point, if you could freestyle, people just, kept asking to freestyle. And then.
Isn't that so funny?
It is. It's cool though. It's like it worked out for me.
I mean, how did that help or hurt your like developing ego at the time?
I don't know. Like, I'm 14 at that point, so I'm probably still, all the insecurities that a 14-year-old figuring out the world has. And I think I might have gotten too deep into projects to really think about what the ego sort of thing was. Because, I'm an only child. I'm a Leo. I'm born near the tiger.
Okay.
There's a lot going on, but I think part of that might be like when you multiply a negative number by a negative number, where it all winds up canceling itself out ego-wise. Because it's just, it's just like it's too much in it. But I always tried to be considerate of others, and I always believed in the group side of hip-hop. Because, at that point, when you really, because I was reading all the hip-hop magazines, watching all the hip-hop docs that there could be, and you believe in this lineage, this legacy of, you bringing people up, and it's this crew thing, it's this counterculture and building things up. So as much as things were, about me and like the things that I liked, I tried to, you lose a rap battle, you dap up the other person, you don't have beef about that, you give props to the people you do beat in the rap battles, and you sort of just keep it going like that. So
Words of wisdom. Sorry to interrupt you with Chaz Kangas here on DogStar. We got to take a break in about 10 seconds. Make sure you follow him on Instagram at Chaz Raps.
You can follow us at DogStar Podcast.
We're going to be back with more Chaz Kangas talking about the continued years in high school. We'll be right back on DogStar.
Bow wow.
Welcome back to DogStar.
Sitting down with Chaz Kangas, learning about the early years.
Oh, yeah.
Finding out you're freestyling in high school. What's the music scene like in the Twin Cities when you're rapping?
On the island.
Are you finding shows to go to?
yeah,
Or?
that was a time when the shows that would be at venues, there'd be typically 2 shows a night, where it'd be the all ages show at like 6, and then either the 18 plus or the 21 plus show at like 9.
So bring that back.
Yeah.
I think that's so cool. And just a quick sidebar to like, now it's wild when you think, in a post-pandemic world where a lot of these young artists, and in many different genres are performing, they are essentially performing concerts without really having had their grown-up formative years into concerts. Because the pandemic is about to turn 5 next year. So when you think about how many, your own high school experiences, how many of those were about going to concerts and seeing things, and the youthful energy that comes in a lot of like new and emerging music, a lot of them are really reinventing the wheel, or inventing their own wheel, or just creating their own new language of stage performance on the spot. It's really fascinating, and it's unfortunate they didn't get those experiences, but it's cool to see those sort of things live on, and to see, almost a theatrical of only having watched concerts on television and seeing that come through in what it's like on the stage. So it's a really interesting development. But yeah, I was very fortunate that there were so many live shows. There were the local hip hop scene was very, very vibrant in 2000, like Idea was, winning the Blaze battle when I was like starting in high school. And I always cited Idea as a big influence because he really was the last of the teenage rappers before teenage rappers became appealing to like younger children. Because, like that same year you had like Bow Wow and the next year you had Lil Romeo. Idea was like the last like 18-year-old who was like, I'm in this for adults. And to see how well he did on Blaze Battle and just genuinely actually freestyling, it was so cool having that to look up to and to really appreciate. And plenty of people talk to like how great Idea is, so I'm happy to say that they're all 100% right.
Heck yeah.
So going to shows for sure, can you give us some key highlights as to your development, whether it be through writing, through stage performance, through your high school years?
Yeah. So
or album drops.
Yeah, it was me and my Casio. I got in the habit of calling it my band, so that's why sometimes I would like subconsciously and consciously just stop myself from saying my band. Yep.
Performance art piece?
Yeah,
No.
Yeah, it was Electric Speckled Love Machine. I went to a Wesley Willis concert in
Wait, what was the name of it?
Electric Speckled Love Machine.
Okay.
And the first EP was called Baltimore Romance and Robots with Mullets. I had gone to a Wesley Willis show, rest in peace, on December 31st, 2001. And I'd been a huge Wesley Willis fan prior to that. And then the day after, I was inspired to just, pull out this Casio and start making songs around it. So I cranked out an EP in a day, and then I kind of refined that a little bit more.
Gosh.
And then I released it on February 12th, 2002.
So the middle of the school year.
Yep, yeah, the Tuesday before Valentine's Day. And I started selling a lot of these CDs. Like I was making.
Oh, you burned them.
Yeah, I was just knocking them out, and I was making $90 a day, which is too much money for a 15-year-old to have. Like no 15-year-old should be making that. So I'm just turning right around and going to Sam Goody or Best Buy, and but so it was good money. And then I put out another release with that in May, and then so the hip hop and everything else kind of and the filmmaking kind of took a back burner because the year before I actually made a feature film.
What?
When I was a freshman in high school.
Called?
Puddin', or How I Learned to Stop Worrying About and Love the Pudding. It was about a guy who was addicted to pudding. And
can we find either of these two albums or this film online?
Online,
can fans, I should say.
No. I'm sure copies are still floating around Minnesota because we actually wound up. I put together eventually a Electric Love Machine, a greatest hits project called Sadist Hits.
Oh my god!
And that randomly people will find one and will call me, and because I put my number in it, like a genius, a business genius.
Ah, yes.
And so those are definitely still in circulation and around.
Cool.
Puddin', unless, like, I'm sure, because we submitted it to a lot of festivals, so there are copies around in circulation. I would have to think about putting that one out and talking to people involved in it. But I was very fortunate that spring break, my freshman year of high school, I had 4 friends who we agreed to just, like, not go anywhere, do anything else for our spring break, then just, shoot for a week and make a full-on, like, movie. And we did. I wrote a script, and we all knocked it out. We, people who weren't in the scene would spend that time to memorize our lines for that scene. When you shoot it, then we'd shoot it, and then I edited it together on 2 VCRs put together that I'd occasionally just, like, wire in.
Oh my gosh!
And yeah, we finished a full-on feature film, and my mom made us lunch during that too, so it's good to have
craft services.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
But both filming and the hip hop you said took a wayside with.
And the film,
band.
and the filmmaking like eventually came back because then I wound up just for my school like essays and things or projects in class or group projects, I'd ask, hey, can I just make a short film instead? And my teachers were cool enough to let me do it. Shouts out to Mr. Sapansky, who's still a teacher at De La Salle and one of the best teachers I ever had. He really fostered a lot of that creativity. So shouts out Paul Sapansky all day.
Right.
Mr. Sapansky, it's a thing when you want to call your teachers by their name,
Right.
like, but yeah, he was cool, and I'm really fortunate that I had that sort of fostering nature from teachers.
Yeah, can you give any advice to an artist who feels like they don't have anyone supporting them in their corner, or especially a younger artist?
Yeah, I'd say I'll talk directly to the camera. This is you and me talking. Hi, young artist. What you're making with your art is first and foremost for you. You want this thing to exist. You may not realize it, but that is at its core why you're making it and why you're doing it. And it may feel like no one is in your corner. And that may or may not be true. Your brain could be playing tricks on you if you're a sensitive artist. A lot of us are sensitive, myself included. I'll also tell you as someone who has been in the room and had conversations with some of the absolute most successful and known by every metric successful artists on the planet, they still have their own insecurities. They have the people who they wish they were. They have the things that they wish they had. Very early on, and I don't know how this is going to land with you, young artist, but in the back of your mind, remember, no one has it all. There's absolutely no one who's 100% content, even at the heights of superstardom, with everything. And it's a tough thing to shake. It's also a tough thing to shake to feel like you're in a competition with others and that you're not feeling supported. 100%, every artist who has ever done anything art-wise has that feeling. Again, whether it's true or not, there's a lot who have this tremendous support who don't know it, or their brain is not letting them realize that they do know it. But ultimately, if you are making something you like and that you're proud of, it exists, and there are ways for that to get out. There's no expiration date on art anymore because things are always going to be available because of the internet, because of circulation. So even if things don't find the right thing for you right now, years down the line, things could connect. As we're recording this, Princess Superstar, who had success in the 2000s, still makes great music and the time in between, but just now was finally got her first Grammy nomination after 25 years in the game from a song she made years ago that got remixed and put on the soundtrack to Saltburn. And now that's finally connecting on this massive level. And she's not alone. There's plenty of artists who these things take time, but it's not about the success and the support from others. It's about being happy with what you've made. By that same token, you will find the support out there. You will eventually find the people who want to exist what it is you're making. They may not be in your neighborhood, and they may not be in your city. They may not even speak your language, but they are out there, and there are ways to find them. There are ways to ethically get what you're making out there. There are resources. Reach out to people, find different ways. Just don't spam in comments, and otherwise, or don't buy followers, don't buy bots. That we've saw the problems that we've had that, but you know that right now because you're watching this in 2024, and you're smart. And ultimately, the main thing to when you're making art is be happy and proud of the art you've made. Everything else can be found in salvage later, put out there later, investment-wise, anything. As long as you can go to sleep at night and know that you didn't do anything to the detriment of others making your art, you did a good job, and I'm proud of you. And regardless what it is, I'm happy to hear it.
Sitting down with Professor Emeritus Chaz Kangas. Extremely wise words.
Yeah, very wise words.
And I'll say to you, I'll say just another follow-up that artist. This is you and me talking again. When you do, and you will, when you do find the success of the art you've made that you're proud of and you've been around a while, whether you have a status that you're known and really well known in the scene, whether you're considered a veteran, whether you're considered, just a staple, regardless of your position in it, there will come a point when someone who is new is in the same position you are right now. And every artist has the option. And it's not even just in art, just in general, in any profession, in any trade, in any craft. You will have the choice to be the person you needed to have around you that you may have never gotten, or the choice to be the person who did not help, who you wish would have helped you. And you should choose to be the person who helps. You're going to gain nothing being the person who's bitter, the person who doesn't want to help. And I'm not saying, you have to drop everything to help everyone, as nice as it can be, and there's a whole different things on there, but your immediate instinct and reaction should be, how can I in some way, if you can't open a door for someone, you can show someone where a door is. It's just going to make everything better. Even if it doesn't automatically help you with each and every person that you do help. If you really want things to be better in a scene, you really want to help someone who's maybe going through the same things that you might be doing making art, don't be the no one helped me person, because that person is still to this day, and there are people like that in every medium that people encounter, and it's festering, and you gotta purge that. No one wants to be the aged hater. There's no endurance to that.
Not a good look.
Yeah, and back me up on this. You'd rather be the person where, if you could help someone, find where the next rung on the ladder is, or even if it's not a level of a monetary or commercial success, just helping someone make something they're proud of in the same way you're making what you're proud of. That's the core of it. So thanks for listening.
Yeah, stop the cycle of you
Yeah.
didn't get support, so you're not supporting anybody.
And
yeah.
do you think that even that on a basic level comes from the community aspect of hip hop culture? You know what I mean? Where it's,
I do.
We all bring each other up. We all give each other.
We'd like to, because I mean, there are the pockets of hip hop where there are people who in every scene where they're like, no one helped me, so I'm not going to help anyone, and then
mixes with the
numerous-
braggadocio, and it's the perfect storm
and,
of ego.
and it's just like, do you really want these things to be better, especially like post like 2020, that we went through. And it's just such a weird, like, are you wounded and now do you want to be the abuser versus do you want to be the person who, I'm not saying, paying dues is a real thing, and like, but in terms of like, helping someone, find their craft, sharpen the iron. Don't just, not let anyone go to the sharpening.
Totally.
Yeah, like there's like a few weeks back, there's a big talk on Twitter about like the New York hip hop scene and about, is there a level like in the aughts where is it over romanticized an idea where it's like, because, and I think a lot of people, may have this wrong idea of a wrong idea, that people have this illusion that New York is just a super supportive place for everyone who wants to get out there. And it's not. But it's never had the illusions of that. Like, you can go back to, like, find hip-hop magazines in the late 80s, early 90s, and artists will say, the way that you got the equivalent of a standing ovation in New York is if you didn't get booed. Like, it's very much a very hard crowd to win over. It's the home of hip-hop amongst, like, everything else.
Right.
But New York does reward tenacity, and even if you're not someone's favorite artist, like they will, okay, this person's around, like, and that's the earning it, that's the being there. And when you learn how to like get those victories and learn how to do it in front of that kind of crowd, and that's a big thing why I think people should travel and perform in front of as many different audiences as possible, not just stay in one pocket.
Right.
And so with New York, you do have. It's not just like, oh, hey, you're rapping in a mask? Cool, we're going to support that because it's everyone doing everything and finding their art. Like, no, it's like you're in the home of hip-hop. Like, you are going to face some opposition, but, that's going to turn that coal into a diamond. Some of it's dumb hating. You shouldn't listen to it all. Of course there's that. But there's also, like, okay, look at the people who are doing an amazing job at what they're doing. What can you take from that and put your own spin on it? And then that's just how that continued evolution of hip-hop happens.
So, sorry, back to high school. You're selling CDs, still doing more of, alt rock, electro rock?
I'd say underground alternative rock, like if anything, because this is also during a time of like White Stripes and Hives, when there's like very different approaches to rock that's gaining some momentum and gaining attention.
And are you getting on stage at school talent shows with this musical act?
Yes.
Okay.
And that was one where it was kind of one of those things, the first like 30 seconds, people are just bewildered at what is going on, and then they realize like, oh, this is actually catchy and fun.
I thought that was the freestyling guy.
Yep. Yeah. So doing that, but then like by my senior year, junior year, like I got really back into like working into a freestyle project again, like and wanting to rap and doing a lot of that. And then senior year, I put out right before graduation a rap album called The Brown Bunny.
As Chaz Kangas?
No, as Klugatless, which was a random high school nickname, the origins of which are lost to the sands of time.
Okay.
But,
we'll talk you off mic.
Yeah. And then so I was doing that, and then I was starting work as a high school classmate of mine who was a Kid Icarus, who wanting to, we started working on a project then too, and he hated that name. So then I used like a different alias for the project I was doing with him because he thought that name was his words. I think were too ugly to be on a record with him. So
Kid Icarus.
No, but like Klugatless is ugly sounding.
Right, Kid Icarus
like,
isn't that much better. But
well, no, I'd say Kid Icarus is better. It's got that Nintendo sheen to it. Like Klugatless sounds like a growth
Star Wars
or a fiction.
character.
Yeah,
Right.
better. Yeah. So I
switched it up.
Yeah, so I took the names of like two pretty girls I knew, one who was Samantha and like one whose last name was Cameron. So I made it Sam Cameron. So I just kind of like a thing throwing out to me. Okay, well here's something pretty then, and it's like okay, that works. So yeah, it worked with that.
Bada boom.
And that was the second.
That was the after using because you had different.
Can you
rap
give us the
names thrown out.
timeline?
Yeah, in Sledgehammer Posse, I was using the name. I started with the name Captain Breakdance, which I think was like a Whose Line Is It Anyway, or a very early Daily Show Jon Stewart reference. And then I wound up settling on Prime Minister Prince Chaz.
Okay.
Because I liked the idea of someone being a prime minister and a piece of royalty, and then putting my own name in there. And then from there, as high school happened and things went around with that, and then eventually it wasn't until like I moved to New York that I started rapping under my real name. Because there's a guy named Creature who's the closest thing I've ever had to like an older brother figure. He was an amazing rapper in the '90s. He was part of a crew called Triflix. Then he became he's like the cornerstone foundation of like the New York underground scene in so many ways. Amazing dude, amazing music. Highly recommend checking out Creature. Oh, he now plays in a band called. I'm a terrible person. The name's escaping at the moment, but they're out. Rebelmatic. Yeah,
Okay,
so it's a post-hardcore band now, like very Bad Brains influence, but also with the bass level of like a hip hop or a 24/7 Spies sort of thing, and they're awesome. But his rap music's great too. He had a song with Rob Sonic and Hangar 18 on one of the Tony Hawk games. So you may not be aware that the song Sniper Picnic was the name of it. So if you heard, you may be familiar with his work, but great dude. And he's the one who, in a full like older brotherly way, just pulled me to the side one day and he says, "Why don't you just rap under your real name? It's more memorable. It's fun to say. You know, it's Chaz Kangas." And I'm like, "You raise a very good point." So from that point in 2005 on, I was rapping under my real name.
And this is out in New York?
This is in New York. Yeah, New York City, New York.
We got to take a break in about 20 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
When we come back, we're going to be talking New York onward.
It's
with
only
Chaz
a few
Kangas
years
here on
between
DogStar.
freshman year of college and now, so we got our work cut out for us.
Yeah.
A few years, he says.
Instagram, Chaz Raps. Instagram for us, DogStar Podcast. We'll be right back.
Bow wow.
Bow wow.
Welcome back to DogStar.
Sitting down with Chaz Kangas,
Hello.
learning about the previous aliases. That's always a favorite
I
one
love
of
it.
ours. Before we dive into the
I like
discography,
you had Niles on here, and he brought up that his alias was Alias, and like I knew him as Alias in New York.
Whoa.
So that was a cool throwback moment. Like that was a good episode.
there is
available
a
in the
track
archives.
with NYLES. That's not Niles, is it?
No, that's not NYLE. That's a different Nile.
Okay.
Like that's a Nile.
You're talking Niles Phillips.
Yeah,
Initially,
Chadwick
okay,
Niles
yep.
Phillips. Yeah. He. We came up in the same because the freestyle circuit he mentioned was a spot called Sinsin for a place called Freestyle Mondays.
Whoa.
So, which if anyone like sees footage of me where it's like the lights are really red there, like that was Sinsin in New York. That was the place that really formed me.
Cool.
I think there's a lot of footage on the YouTube, I believe. Some archival footage at this point, perhaps.
On YouTube.com, yes.
On YouTube.com.
That's tight.
That's so cool, and I would assume, as much as your schedule allowed at the time, there would be events like this going on everywhere.
There would. And so I went to NYU and I booked all my classes to be only 3 or 2 days a week. So I could spend those other days either going to other open mics and events in New York or because my job through college, I made my money rap battling.
That's huge.
So I would book, or I'd look online because, this is still very early MySpace years,
Right.
but you'd see postings online around the East Coast where different rap battles were happening. It was still close enough to 8 Mile putting the rap battle fever as a draw for places. So I would have my classes 2 days a week, and then I would just go up and down the East Coast and battling to perform in a bunch of different audiences in Boston and Connecticut and Rhode Island, and just really get the feel for the flavor of what different crowds want, playing to different crowds.
Yeah.
And in some situations, you go into a freestyle battle and someone would be just surrounded by people there, and then I would be there, and I would deliberately. If I didn't come with anyone, I wanted no one behind me because I wanted that contrast to then really win the crowd over.
Yeah.
So
The theatrics. Yeah, I know the things I know about you. Journalist, radio DJ, loves wrestling as well. And I feel like that pageantry, and you were kind of talking about the music videos earlier, like the superhero status of an MC. I feel like you clicked on that real good, latched onto that, and that's huge. It's all showmanship, baby.
And a lot of my work in battle rap kind of came from wrestling, the subconscious thing where I used to have very long hair that I donated, and so a lot of my head bobbing action, when they test the crowd for who to cheer for, is very much Ultimate Warrior-esque.
Oh.
And then when I cut my hair, I had to think of a certain way to say no to the crowd. So I was watching an episode of WCW Monday Nitro from the 90s, and I noticed Diamond Dallas Page would do this thing where he would just his finger, he would just point into different parts of the crowd and be like, okay, I'm gonna gently lift that from DDP. Not the first time a rapper's taken something from him.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's a wrestler who is now with All Elite Wrestling named Nigel McGuinness, who was with Ring of Honor, and like watching a lot of his matches, and he would do the way he would like walk in the ring. He would like take like a little like kind of bit of a ginger step on one of the ropes before he'd like turn right back around. So I'd start doing that as like a punchline indicator in battles.
Oh,
so you find just like these little things to to pull together, or get in the crowd, like, to make noise. There's a wrestler named Rhino who would do this thing before he would spear someone, where he would just like put his hand like this, and so it's very much deliberately like lifting from these elements. So people who have probably not watched wrestling maybe ever, maybe not since the 90s, but knowing how to react, because the secret to winning rap battles, like punchlines is important, but ultimately, even if it's a judged battle, you have to win that crowd, you have to win that audience, and if you want your battle circuit, or for the better of the medium, for people to come to it, you want it to look like, if there is footage, people are having a great time and want to be there.
Right.
And so I found with wrestling such an immediate way to what is making them connect with the crowd, and then just pulling that where I can incorporate it without openly being like, oh, hey, he's doing that thing that the wrestler thinks.
Yeah.
Probably wrestling fans didn't know what some of those things may have been, if it's like touching in like the back of their mind of it. But it's really that's what hip hop is, pulling from these things that you like and then putting your own spin on it and then incorporating it. So yeah, I sampled wrestling in my day-to-day life.
And
huge.
was this focus more on the battle rapping, taking away from hunkering down and writing more, or because what was the hiatus between Brown Bunny and the next release?
Well, because Notes from the Underground was the one I did with Kid Icarus.
Right,
that was
right.
recorded the same year as Brown Bunny, but released the following January.
Okay,
when I was
that's
at
right.
NYU. So it was cool, like being able to go around and be like, hey, I have this completed rap album that sounds good, and that was during the year that I was dorm mates with Donald Glover, Childish Gambino.
Heyo.
And so we like shared like our early projects with each other. So I was there for the release of The Younger I Get, and so that's why I later rapped on his first mixtape. So
That's
because
right.
we were the two hip hop kids in that dorm, or the two ones where people knew we were hip hop kids. Where for like I remember that week when he first moved in, people were saying to him, "Hey, have you met this kid Chaz who raps?" People were saying to me, "Hey, have you met?"
He's the
Donald?"
other
So
kid who
we're-
raps.
Yeah. So the earliest footage of him rapping is with me, and it's in the dorm. It's in the basement of that dorm in Goddard Hall.
What?
It's us, and if you look at like there's so much like just like talent in that room, because you have Chris Lane, guitarist for the band Station, like playing guitar on there. You have Jenna Kim Jones, who's like a stand-up comic right now, very very funny and very beloved. She's in the room as well. Elle Varner, I think, is in that room too. So
The
there's-
Back in Black freestyle
That's the one.
video. I
That's the
just
one.
watched that today. That's
Yep.
so cool.
Yeah,
Whoa.
so that is like the moments of us first, like after being told for a few days to meet each other. That was when we first met, and we're like, hey, the basement jamming. Do you guys know any? And we don't know any hip hop beats. Like, do you know Back in Black by AC/DC, which everyone learned. So they started just like playing that, and so we did that. So
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What a life.
And what was the return to? Because I assume the network's only growing at this point, musically. What was the pull back to the studio to record some of this?
Oh, well, I just kind of kept doing studio like recording stuff like while I was doing the battle thing. Because
okay.
like I looking up to ID at the time, and the way that he kind of balanced that was by making his albums sound nothing like his battles. And Sage Francis was doing the same thing too, and he's also a major influence, and just in so many ways, just as a person, as an artist, as just so. And to this day, like I think his work is still great, and I think he's an amazing social media follow. And just being able to realize, I think that's the way you do it, because a lot of times when battle rappers would like make music, it would just be like they were battling nobody. And there's like
Right.
for a single that can be cool, and like a guest verse on something that can be cool.
Right.
But if you're listening to just 18 tracks of someone mad at someone who's not there, turn
this off.
Yeah, and so that seemed like the template on how to do it. So my music was very not battle-ish, and I found that was the way. Like I put out like before a tour, like I recorded a bunch of stuff around that time, and having access to just the NYU recording studios, because I majored in cinema studies, but I had a lot of friends who were in the Clive Davis recorded music program. So and they would like make beats and produce things, and so we do things like in like a dorm room, or we do things in like this major really nice studio, and then that's how like Knee Jerk Reaction was largely recorded.
Ooh, okay. And I'm gonna ask you on camera right now, what's been lost to time? What do you consider the beginning of the Chaz Kangas discography? You know what I mean? Because
Spotify starts one place, and
SoundCloud also
yeah.
starts one place. Some of the links are expired on some Bandcamp links. So
Yeah.
I assume
Yeah.
my inner journalist it used to be there, now it's not. What up?
Yeah, I've always found like when artists say that their first album is not their first album, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, but it is. It may not be like your favorite thing, it may not be what you're happy with, and I think that's totally valid too. But I think when you look at things, even if it wasn't first album, but a collection of singles, thing like Gangstar's No More Mr. Nice Guy, which came out on Wild Pitch, and it was like their first album, but grew in premiere. Like it's not like their first album, but. And then get into like, the difference between what's a collection of singles and what's an album. I think, I really can't say, because like by the time Knee Jerk Reaction came out, that was like my 10th project.
Right.
But it's also, I'm still very much, a teenager, very early 20s, like still really finding my voice and figuring that out. And, I think there is me having refined that from, where my voice was for Brown Bunny or Notes from the Underground. There's still ways to go around too,
Right.
and then. So I leave that up to anyone to decide what they want. Like, if anyone can consider a 13-year-old's album their debut, like, or if it's just you're just and like unless you're Lil Romeo or Lil Bow Wow,
Right.
Or a diehard Chaz Kangas fan.
So and it's also I don't know what I'd say would be the first.
Well, let's keep moving through. Let's move on to the Rex Manning Day EP.
Yeah. Well, between that was a personal reference. From
Okay, I knew I was missing something. I knew I was missing something.
Yeah, because I worked with one producer for that record, and that was which that one should be on Bandcamp, because on Bandcamp there's that, and then there's also the for the 10th anniversary of that I put out the outtakes of that. A personal reference, which had Homeboy Sandman and Alaska from Hangar 18 and Mac Lethal on it. So at the time, knowing that I had someone who at one point was on Rhymesayers, Definitive Jux, and Stone's Throw, felt like I really had the triumvirate of like indie rap royalty on there.
Oh, totally.
So I'm super proud of that one, because the producer I was working with at the time was someone who was he was part of a group called Menya, who were getting a lot of attention, having a lot of music and like a lot of MTV shows like Jersey Shore. They're doing a lot of music for that and being heard around and touring really heavily. And he was also producing for Mike Doherty of Soul Coughing. He produced his solo albums. So he was getting to a point where he realized he couldn't like sample anymore. And I realized I was getting to a point where it's like, with how litigious the music industry was getting, I wanted to do a very like Paul's Boutique style, like Public Enemy, Takes Nation to Million style, Bloodhound Gang, Use Your Finger style, like very pastiche sample album. And so that's really kind of what we did. We just did an extreme amount of sampling on every single song.
Wow.
And so, stuff that we would never be able to clear, but we figured, if we're all going to go out like on sampling, like let's just do it all like this. And in a lot of ways, like with my love of sampling, that felt like the record that I spent my whole life making up until that point. Whoa. Like everything that I really wanted to do, every idea that I've had for things for years, I felt we had a chemistry that we could all put it together like that.
Oh,
so
it's
something
important.
It's something that'll probably never be on Spotify for that very reason, but that's why it exists in Bandcamp. So,
can I ask, do you have the files somewhere
of
that project?
Oh yeah, that project should be up. Like,
that's right.
I believe that one should be up. I do have just about everything I've ever recorded, because I've always
That's rare.
I've always had like this mentality to have a copy and like and preserve everything. I think like the only very little that I don't. The one is like there's like two songs that both, because of like hard drive crashes at studios I recorded at, that were unfortunately lost, where I'd have like nothing of. And then there's one where I did a theme song for a podcast that I got paid to do, and then I think I have like a recording on my phone of it's through so many like layers removed of a recording that it sounds like it's coming through a wet telephone.
Oh no.
But I do, but it's at least something. So, but yeah.
So we've only got about a minute left. We're about to hear two tracks of your brand new collaborative project, Minnesota Night.
Yep.
What can you, in 30 seconds, tell us about the project, and then we can ask you about the songs?
Party City Machine Guns. It is myself and nur-d. We had the idea to do a group together. The name came when we were in the Great Bar Luchador locally. We decided to put something out for Twin City Con, a time with our buddy Dave Wheeler, who did the art for it. It has production, local production from Styx, as well as production from J57, and production from Sam Camerood. And it's a wonderful project, and I hope everyone loves it and enjoys it.
Short and sweet, and your representative sent over the third and the fourth track from that. What's the Word? And My Rhyme Ain't Done. Both are, very, very enjoyable tracks. One's kind of got a bit more up-tempo, goofy vibe to it. What can you tell listeners about these two tracks in particular?
My Rhyme Ain't Done is our LL Cool J tribute, and with well, what we want to do, because like we want to do like a real project that sound like nothing else that Nerdy or I could release, and we have a level of like real rap group projects. I think a lot of times over the past 20 years, there's a handful of exceptions, but for the most part, every rap group sounds like a group of temporarily inconvenient solo artists who have to like share duties, and where we wanted to really sound like something that could only exist of us doing something together. So for both tracks, we did a lot of like high level back and forth that people are ringing the alarm for.
Well, thank you again for sitting down with us. Make sure to follow Chaz Kangas at Chaz Raps on Instagram.
Don't forget Bandcamp Friday. Chaz Kangas. Bow wow.
Bow wow.
Bow wow. Hey, what's the word of the day? Hey, what's the word of the day? What is the word of the day?
C-M-G-N-I-T-E.
Today's
C-M-G-N-I-T-E. P-C-M-G-N-I-T-E.
You know what today's
P-C-M-G-N-I-T-E. P-C-M-G-N-I-T-E. P-C-M-G-N-I-T-E.
Namaste.
Lifting this peace and everybody like a
Holiday.
Get in these streets with what I have to say like
Remedy.
I got the ways to ease pain.
Identity.
All in my cave like Bruce Wayne.
Quantity.
Got a lot of reasons I'm doing it hard.
Astronomy.
Scorpio season, I'm really in charge.
Caffeine.
Stay awake, baby, yo, you'll miss this.
Gangrene.
So sick when I step in this business. Bubble,
Always looking clean when I pop up.
trouble,
Overcame the struggle, leave a ma struck.
pray,
Some moments of quiet introspection.
Slay.
Every look from every look in my direction.
rover,
A name you say twice for an invite.
clover,
Four-leaf, lucky for my insight.
Pang.
What I wear inside the club, avoiding taboos.
Farang.
Gotta say again, thanks for the statue. You know, it really is a nice statue. I know when we received it, it was copper, and over the years, the weather's hit it, it's made it change colors, but it still looks great. And peeking out of the crown, they reopened it in 2015.
Handle.
Moments where I'm certain who I am.
Randall,
Moments where I'm cunning and a ham.
suit,
That's an Andy Warhol muse.
Fruit.
Like an ego when it's getting bruised.
massage,
Deep tissue till the knot's out.
dressage,
Horses dance and clap until they drop out.
rumble,
That's how I scuttle through this nightlife.
bumble.
Wanna catch a buzz, you better swipe right. Continent.
Yeah, they play my music in 7 of them.
Condiment.
Sauce for all my dogs, I'm spending on them.
Captivate.
How I do it every single time.
Extrapolate.
They confused trying to find why.
Efficiency.
Never waste a pass, I word perfect.
Calligraphy.
And his fancy ass, I curse and cursive.
Circulate.
Your mind another time round his track.
Terminate.
Thumbs up, baby, I'll be back.
What's the word? What's the word? Yo, that's my word. What's the word? What's the word?
Yo, you have my word.
What's the word? What's the word? You can take my word. What's the word? What's the
I
word?
never break my word.
What's the word? What's the word?
Yo, that's my word.
What's the word? What's the word? Yo, you have my word. What's the word? What's the word?
You can take my word.
What's the word? What's the word? I never break my word.
Let me tell you a story about Skips McGee. The year was 2173. Skip worked hard at the Waffle House, and his boss was a 10-foot alien mouse. One day, Skip saw something strange.
A union-busting unicorn begging for change. Covered in mange, he was nearly killed. Nearly risked his life crossing the Hash Browns Guild. The surly unicorn pushed unfair wages.
And the Hash Brown Guild hated that and created an irradiated grapefruit, hungry for blood, with a pair of nunchucks that were covered in mud. It stomped to the Waffle House full of rage.
And Waffle House truthers swore it was staged. The mouse told Skip,
That's why we unionize, son.
that story is over.
But my rhyme ain't done.
Skips is
But my rhyme ain't done.
fighting for the working.
But my rhyme ain't done.
Or he's watching and not intervening.
But my rhyme ain't done.
like a boss.
But my rhyme ain't done.
Passively
But my rhyme
passive
ain't done.
resistance.
Passive.
But my rhyme ain't done.
This is a story of Chloe, a kindergarten teacher. School bus rings, she cranks up the speaker, giving her students a taste of the arts, music and painting and books about parks, until she was told about the budget cuts.
She raised a fuss, so then they kicked her out on her butt. And then her fun-loving kids from her classes, they all got drafted into kicking some asses in the intergalactic expansion and stuff like that.
But they never forgot Miss Chloe's impact. She sent a message that reached their barracks, delivered by a bilingual undercover parrot to reroute the funds back to education.
But the government found her broadcast station, so she barely escaped. Now she's on the run. The story is over, but the run ain't done.
But my rhyme ain't done.
Chloe,
But my rhyme ain't done.
kitchen finger painting,
But my rhyme ain't done.
masterpiece,
But my rhyme ain't
Macaroni.
done. But my rhyme
pointillism,
ain't done.
Linguini
But
art.
my rhyme ain't done.
field trips,
But my rhyme ain't
More
done.
pasta art.
But my rhyme ain't done.
Now we're gonna tell you what all this means.
The moral to the story and its hidden themes.
Legendary scribes rhyme PhDs,
PCMGNITE.
just a little game LL made up.
Be careful when you play, cause it's dangerous.
Some of it is fiction, some of it fact.
If you don't hit repeat, then you're anti-black.
We had a lot of rules and we broke every one.
That story is over.
And my rhyme